Okay, here I am outside the Board of Supervisors meeting, hall, room, whatever you want to call it. Can you see that down there? Anyway, daylight savings time. Oh, it makes things dark. Anyway, they're supposed to be live streaming tonight, but quite frankly, after the quality of the candidates meeting from the Chamber of Commerce, not their fault, technology's tough. I'm hoping I'll get a better audio and video, but hopefully they do the live stream tonight, and it does work well. They're supposed to be talking about there's some E911 improvement for the telecommunications system to be discussed tonight. But we're on the eve of the election, and I'm so glad. Tomorrow night I will be at the election office. They're live. I'm going to do that one live. This is being recorded because I want to use my good camera. And people are filtering in, so I'm going to go in and get a good seat and see it on the outside.
Christ's name, and all God's children said, Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we will have roll call.
Vice Chairman Brandon.
Present.
Chairman Claiborne.
Present.
Supervisor McDowell. Supervisor Donnell.
Present.
Supervisor Riddle.
Present.
Supervisor Roller.
Present.
Supervisor Smart.
Present.
Supervisor Witt.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, we have adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or subtractions that this board wants to make from the agenda? If not, I would like to entertain a motion to adopt it.
So moved.
Second. Any further questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion is carried. Next, we will have the approval of the minutes from September 12th, 2025, the BFD Capital Needs Committee. September 29th, 2025, the Strategic Core Planning Committee. September 30th, 2025, the Airport Committee meeting. October 6th, 2025, the Board of Supervisors call special meeting. Are there any corrections that need to be made to any of these minutes? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt them.
Second.
Okay, any further questions? All in favor, would you please say aye?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. We have no recognitions tonight, so now we get to citizens' comments. Was that, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, to the consent agenda. Under section E of the consent agenda approval, we have warrants for September 2025, the treasurer's report of August 31st, 2025, and September 30th, 2025. Are there any corrections that need to be made to these consent agenda matters? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second. Okay, any further questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Next, we have no recognitions. Now we get to citizen comments. As I state, every meeting, everyone has some right to participate in citizen comments. You have that First Amendment right, we can't deny. All I ask that you do is just show respect to the people who come up and speak. As I always say, you may not like what's said. I may not like what's said about me, but those people have a right to speak just as you do. And now you would have 3 minutes. After 2 minutes, there should be a warning that you have a minute left if you look up on the screens. And then after that, after your time is up, we will let you know if you don't realize. So with that being said, first person, please come up. Nobody? Okay.
Thank you. My name is Kirsty Sherman. from the Virgin Island area, District 7. Not much tonight. I just want to make a comment on the athletic complex. From what I understand, funds have already been appropriated for that. It's already taken care of. If it is not, I would like for you to explain to us why there's confusion about that. Because from what I understand, from everything I've read and researched, money was put aside specifically for the schools. That's why we pay an extra tax. So that's one thing. Second thing, I think y'all did a great job hiring the new county administrator. I think y'all made a wise decision. I think he's going to be fair. And I think he's going to look at everything that comes to him, and he's going to look at all three sides before he makes a decision. I think he'll be fair. I do think y'all did a great job on hiring him. Congratulations, Ron. The next thing on your agenda, I see that there are 3 permits that are going to be presented. This county needs jobs. If you don't think so, give me your paycheck and let me have it. This county needs jobs. And these 3 people that have put this application in, there shouldn't be any question. If they're not dealing drugs and they're not making moonshine and they're not prostituting, you need to approve their permit. Halifax County has got to grow. If it doesn't, we can all kiss all of this goodbye. So I really hope that you seriously consider every application that comes in front of you and approves them. And don't put so many restrictions that it makes it impossible for John Q. Public to start a business. And I see you kind of grinned at that, but it's true. And I know that, I did see you grin, Mr. Claver, but that is true. And I know firsthand about that. There's so many stipulations that you put on small businesses in this county, they can't thrive. And we need this county to thrive. So I urge you, when somebody puts in an application to start a small job in this county, that you approve it. Thank you for your time. Have a great night, and this is going to be a good meeting.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name's Randy Bailey. This is going to be a fun election this go around. Very fun. Herbert, you've done a great job. I'm proud of you. The Lord's proud of you. But the man running against you, this one here, I had many dealings with him. He gave me the run around the whole time he was sheriff. He left office in disgrace. We had more whorehouses here, more liquor houses, more crack houses, and more gambling houses here.
He's not campaigning. He's not campaigning. No, he is not campaigning.
He's not campaigning. He's not a candidate, okay? He has the right to speak.
That is right.
Yes.
Yeah, all that was going on a lot while Jeff Oaks was, sheriff. Never could get him to do nothing, but the Holy Spirit's not going to be involved in this. What's going to be involved is Satan is involved with this. Either these Christians here stay in the realm, they come out of the realm of Christ, they are Satan's Christian. So that's what we want to see, is how many of Satan's Christians going to vote for him. I guess so. That's the reason the Holy Spirit ain't going to be involved in this. He's wanting to see how the people are, who they would support. Christ wants this. Satan wants that. So that's the way that's going on that. And that Darrell Malone, if you in here, I'm writing your name down. What I'm going to do. I'm not sent here to save none of you. I'm sent here to expose you. What we have up in the courthouse is one that needs to be replaced too. She does prosecuting for her way, Satan's way with the lies. So that I'll be speaking a lot on that because it'll be election time for Tracy Martin. So I'll be, throwing everything on that. And I'm waiting on Sheriff Clark to finish that investigation that's been going on since January of last year with Jeff Burton being the investigator, which I know him and had dealings with him in the past under his administration. We've had a lot of bad people come out under his administration,
Your
like
time is
Todd
up.
Moser.
Your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone else?
Good afternoon, Board. Maddie Cowan, South Boston, Virginia. Last month, you all voted to postpone the election of the treasurer until later in the year. And I just wanted to comment on that because we have not had a treasurer to fill a full term since I can remember. They always leave mid-term and appoint someone as treasurer rather than go ahead and leave the office and let someone come. And this is no disrespect to Mrs. Hetzel. I think she'll do a fine job, but I don't think we should allow these people to keep appointing people treasurers for us. And that's what we're doing. They leave office, they appoint someone, and that person has an edge over whoever comes in and runs against them. So I think by you all postponing, you did a disservice to them. You really did. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to come forward? Okay, if not, public comment is closed. Next thing, no public hearing. Next we would have a presentation by Fire EMS study on a Fire EMS study by Mr. Walt Bailey. Come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. As you said, my name is Walt Bailey. I'm joined by John Miller here to give you a quick overview of the study that we did during the month of August. Now, we have a PowerPoint presentation. Is that up? All right, somebody's going to have to help me through in getting this up.
You got it.
All right, there we go. All right, first of all, I think it's very important for you to know who was doing the study for your county. All of the study members have strong volunteer roots. Myself, I've been a volunteer next door in Charlotte County for over 50 years with both fire and rescue, and I've had the pleasure of leading all the state agencies, Fire Chiefs Association, State Firefighters Association, and EMS at the state level. Chief Miller here is head of fire service for the forestry department and works with volunteer agencies across the state. James Calvert, longtime volunteer. He started his career in West Virginia, then moved to the Lynchburg area where he was very active and remains active, not only teaching, but with the Bedford County Fire and Rescue. From the Department of Fire Programs, Ken Brown, who is the community coordinator of risk reduction, started his volunteer service in Goochland County and went through many years, there. Spencer Willett, who is a volunteer in Ashland, and then Chris Bernabei with the Office of EMS, actually started his career in West Virginia in the volunteer side of things, and then moved around the state. So all of us have a wealth of knowledge both in volunteer side and career side. I also worked for the city of Lynchburg for 32 years, where I retired as Deputy Chief of Operations. Overview of the study, I'm not going to go through everything. There were a number of things that we were asked to look at, from staffing to your organizational structure, your communications, your system, and so forth. The Fire Services Board was established many years ago. And one of the things that we do by code is to go in and offer technical expertise to counties and cities around the state with dealing with fire and EMS issues. We bring to you an outside view of what we see as best practices that we may recommend, for you. And it's very important for not only you, but the members of the volunteer and career side to understand that these recommendations may take years to implement. But, fail to plan, plan to fail. And we hope you use our document to start a strategic planning process. The request was started on May 6th, was put in May 6th, and we were here the 4th through the 7th, met with, all the departments, the career staff, the volunteer, leadership, the EMS agencies, the 911 center, and emergency services coordinator. And it's also important to understand that while we are going through, each one of us is taking notes independently of one another. So at the conclusion of finishing the study, all of our notes are put together, and we see, and it's amazing how much similarities that we come up with and recommendations that we come up with. And I will go through a few of those with you. First and foremost, we heard over and over, and I'm sure you're keenly aware of the issues that you are having with your radio system here. And bear in mind, that is critical for us as first responders to be able to communicate with one another and call for help when necessary. And it's an awful lonely feeling, whether you're in law enforcement, EMS, or rescue or fire, and you're at somewhere and you need help and there's nobody answering at the end of that radio. So we would, like to see you take action as soon as possible to resolve, the issues there. The structure that you have here, and like I said, we met with some mighty good, dedicated volunteers that you have serving your community. But the trend that we're seeing across not only Virginia, but across the nation is a decline in the volunteers that we have available. And that, as a result, we're doing the same amount of equipment, same amount of work, and sometimes more work with fewer people. We would strongly urge you to codify a Department of Fire and Rescue, just like you have a sheriff's department, school system, and so forth. These people are providing a very valuable service to you, and there needs to be a higher level of coordination amongst the departments, especially on the EMS side. We would recommend that you expand the Fire and EMS Commission, and in doing so, it's difficult. I think you have 12 fire departments and 3 or 4 organizations that do transport EMS. It's difficult for that many people to be making policy changes and decisions. Just like you are elected to do your job here, we would highly recommend that you cut down the size of the commission. We have 4 or 5 of the fire folks and some EMS folks, somebody from the county administrator's office, and 2 board members to meet and make recommendations for that. The emergency services coordinator that you have, many years ago, that's the role that was started. What we're seeing and what we're recommending is changing that title to public safety coordinator or public safety director, there. And it's important for the volunteer agencies to understand we're not talking about him coming in and taking over, your organization, but that person working with you to enhance your operation. They'll be coordinating both fire and emergency EMS calls, identifying and applying for grants. There are grant opportunities that you're missing out on because you don't have a Department of Fire and Rescue. The SAFER grant, Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response, is one pot of money that's available on the federal side that you can use to offset the cost of your first responders here as you're hiring. That grant process is over a 5-year time frame. They pay roughly 100% of the first year, and it's phased out till after the 6th year. It would be up to you to continue that position or fund that within the county government. Organizational chart. This is just one a way of doing it. You have the Fire Commission, who ultimately, and we probably need to add another slide, the Board of Supervisors is ultimately, head of everything here. Then the Fire Commission, the Public Safety Coordinator / Director, and then Operations, EMS, and training, under them. Very important that you come up with standard operating procedures. The last time that we know that or was reported that was done was in 21. A lot of change and a lot of turnover since then, and it appeared that some of the organizations didn't even know that these SOPs existed. We're in a situation now where 25, 30 years ago, any volunteer agency could run like a structure fire and take care of that within their own department. What we're seeing now, and I'm sure it's in Halifax, if you've got a working fire, you probably have 2, 3, 4 different departments responding on that call. So it is extremely important that all the agencies are singing from the same sheet of music. That all the equipment is in the same place, and it needs to be seamless delivery of the service to the citizens of Halifax County. Staffing varies widely, as you can imagine. I'm sure in South Boston, in which they have some career folks, in the town of Halifax, you probably have a whole lot more people available during the day than you have in some of the rural areas. We're seeing a tremendous decline. In fact, the General Assembly has had 3 studies done post-COVID that shows we've had a decline in the last 3 years of 45% of available volunteers to answer calls. And that is tremendously hurting the organizations. Also, we are seeing as a stopgap measure, the first step is hiring EMS people. You can cross-train the EMS people to assist with the fire side too. And again, we're not talking about EMS people taking over fireside, but it's certainly things that they can do to assist. Oversight, you need more oversight into what's going on within the departments here. And I will remind you, we'll hit on this again later in the presentation. All of these departments are subcontractors to you. You are ultimately responsible for all of them and their operations and making sure they're doing the right thing, especially on the EMS side of things. Funding is key of importance. When we're talking about buying a new fire truck that costs $1 million now, or an ambulance that's $450,000, volunteer organizations aren't going to be able to sell raffle tickets and cook stews and pay for that level of equipment. We would like you to consider paying for their fuel, and the insurance is a growing cost and burden on the departments. If you consolidate all through VACO or through some other insurance entity and have one policy, you have the ability through volume to cut down on the cost of insurance and save those organizations money. Collective purchasing. Right now, pretty much all 12 departments are buying things independent of one another, but all of them have the same needs, whether it's turnout gear, hose, trucks, or whatever. If you put out one bid a year and buy multiple pieces, you can get better pricing and then grant opportunities. There are grant opportunities that exist on both the state and federal level that some organizations were not aware that existed. Capital improvements, you already hit on that. Again, new fire trucks are $1 million, ladder trucks are $2 million, ambulances $450,000 and up. So we would highly encourage you to look into including those in the CIP side of things. And it's also important to understand for the volunteer agencies here, this board cannot afford to replace every fire truck that's out there. You have to identify what is the need within that community, whether that is a pumper or a tanker or whatever. But you may have, and we saw equipment that was not necessarily used anymore. You might have to consider surplusing some of that. Training is getting to be a huge problem, and all of our people work other jobs. They have family commitments. They're trying to run the volunteer fire or EMS agency. It's extremely important to put guidelines in for training and their liabilities that exist for both the fire chief and you, Mr. County Administrator. If you have people out there that are performing high-risk things and they're not trained to do so. One program I want to hit on is a Modular Firefighter 1 program that we've developed now. We developed that with this, the volunteer side in mind. No longer do you have to sit through a year-long process. You can break it up in modules and do like one in the spring, one in the fall, and during hunting season and during summer ball season and all, you can take a break from that to get that through. Fleet, I've already said enough, I think, about that. recruitment and retention. There's a Make Me a Firefighter tool that the state uses, and we see a lot of great partnerships that counties have made with the high schools and the vocational side of things to do both fire and EMT within the vocational side. And what you will see, that is one of the fastest growing professions out there. So you would do not only your community good, but the young folks in school developing a vocation for them, to do. There are a lot of things. VolSAP, which is a retirement program that some jurisdictions have picked up, that's administered through BRS to help give a stipend to volunteers after a certain amount of time. You do have the county decal fund, but you might look at expanding that, and then personal property tax incentives. The General Assembly granted us the ability to have incentives for the folks that are doing the volunteers. Strategic planning, I would highly recommend putting together a group to put together a plan. We're not going to run away from you. I do a lot of this with other jurisdictions. I went through this process 5 years ago in Pennsylvania County. I spent 18 months with them developing their plan and codifying the fire and EMS entity there, and I'll be more than willing to help you when I can to do one here. Also host community meetings and get community input. EMS is one of the most challenging sides that we are facing now. Within your county, I think you have 4 different EMS agencies that are operating independent from one another. You have 4 different billing companies. You have 4 different pharmacies. You have 4 different EMS license numbers. All of that needs to be consolidated and done away with the redundancy and have one central role here and a director overseeing that. And I will give you an example. We've been to several jurisdictions like you. Your citizens are dependent upon those agencies providing the service for their citizens. Yet, no coordination was going on, and on a number of cases, all the units were outside the county on mutual aid, and nobody was monitoring what was going on. So that's just one of several things that you need to do. You need to formalize the emergency response agreements. By code, you have to provide EMS to your entire political subdivision 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through. You either do it yourself or have a designated emergency response agency, which you have contracts with those. We would recommend revisiting those and set measurable standards and have agreements both with the county and the agency. What they're doing. Along with that is an MOU of understanding and adopt the EMS officer program, which is something we offer at the state level and utilize the Standard of Excellence program. In the billing side, and just FYI, I sit on your side across the county. I'm the chair of the board of supervisors over there, so I see both sides of this. With the billing side, I think you're missing a lot of potential income by not having all the billing together and not hiring a local person to QA those reports. On the state average, we're seeing probably upper 30s to 40% return, but agencies and localities that have adopted somebody and paid that salary of $50,000, $60,000, all of a sudden their revenue goes from $800,000 to $2 million. So I would highly recommend, utilizing that. Again, recruitment and retention. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. There are a number of programs that you can offer to help with recruitment and retention in the volunteer workforce. Financial oversight. We all have to agree and understand, and I'm talking about the volunteer agencies and you. You're dealing out public funds to these entities, and they need to be accountable, and you need to be holding them accountable to how they're spending that money. I can promise you from what I've seen, pretty much everybody there needs more than what you are providing. But at the same time, they need to justify what those needs are, and you need to look at some audit process and turn it in on an annual basis as to what they're doing with the taxpayer money. Not only what they're doing, but what they're going to do next year, with the funds, as well. Medical direction and advanced protocols. You have 2 entities out of the 4 that actually have some advanced protocols that they can do. And what the citizens are now looking, when I started EMS 50 years ago, we threw them in the back of a truck and hauled us to the hospital. Now we are bringing the emergency room to them. So we need to make sure that you're giving the same level of service to every citizen in the county, regardless of where they live. And you can do that through more consolidation with the EMS side of those. Also, peak hours. You know, it may not be that you need 4 units in service 24 hours a day. Look at your peak hours and the trends that you're following. It may be that you need 2 after midnight and 6 during the day. But, you know, computers can do amazing things, and I see organization after organization predicting out what the call volume, you know, is going to be. Incorporate GIS into your dispatching when possible, and that basically is following where the unit is, so the closest unit gets sent, you know, to there, and you know, some other things with the governance of, you know, dispatching. You know, once again, you are the ultimate authority here. You have control over everything that's going on, you know, by state code. Make sure that you are informed as to your liability of what's going on out there, and that they are informed with their liability for what's going on. How do you do that? Open communications, MOUs, SOPs, SOGs, and so forth, and developing a budget, you know, long-term budget. Other recommendations, NEPA's reporting. The state passed a law last year that all volunteer fire departments have to report. That comes with some cost involved, but we as the Fire Services Board appropriated $250,000 to entities that can apply for grants, you know, to deal with that. Responder health and wellness, another key initiative. We have OSHA breathing down our throat. OSHA has been basically hands-off for the most part with fire and EMS, but they're in the process of doing a revision of the fire brigade standard, and it's all encompassing. And I can promise you, when that hits, and it is going to hit, that is going to be one big check for you to write in order to be in compliance. Meaning every firefighter has to have a physical, you know, every year, minimum training standards and so forth. And equipment, you're no longer going to be able to answer calls. And equipment 15, 18 years old, you have to be in compliance with what's called NFPA 1901. Other recommendations, cancer prevention, the screenings that are offered, and we're looking from the state to start funding some of those. Regulatory, you know, compliance, you know, once again, and we're hitting on that, you know, pretty heavy, that, you know, legally you have the responsibility for all of that. I would highly recommend you talking to your county attorney as to the relationship. A lot of people say, well, they're not employees of the county. And while they're not getting a paycheck, what the courts have determined, and I can provide several jurisdictions, if you're giving them a T-shirt, if you're providing insurance, you know, for them, if you're giving them any incentive, they are unpaid employees of the jurisdiction. So you might be wise to talk to your county attorney, you know, with that. Again, radio is the most immediate issue that you're facing, and you need to address that as soon as possible. Thanks to all the fire departments, you know, in the county and the rescue squads in the county that took time to meet with us and explain what the needs were. And once again, this was a quick overview of a multi-day, you know, deep look into your county. And I would say this is a good starting point and a good document for you to start using to develop a strategic long-term plan to make sure that your citizens are taken care of in a timely manner. And that concludes my quick presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions that I can.
Are there any questions?
A couple actually. We appreciate the time that you took to take a look at our EMS and fire. One of the things I hear you speak of right off the bat is the radio systems, and understand that you and the guys that you work with have a lot of expertise. One of the challenges that's facing the county is that we have invested in a system that doesn't work as expected. Are there any recommendations as to what type of system would be better?
you're getting over my head. There are, number of UHF, VHF, ultra high, and a lot of that depends on the terrain that you operate in. And another key component of that is being able to talk to your neighbors. Whether that is a sheriff's department on a pursuit and needing assistance, whether that is a fire rescue unit crossing, the county lines, that needs to be factored into what type of system that you have.
But no one on your team that has that expertise that's what works about within the rule?
Yeah.
Okay. And my other question to you is, you speak of volunteering and the effects or the burden that it may have on your local government. My question to you is, what is the future of volunteering, especially with the NFPA 501?
When I first went on the Fire Services Board 15 years ago, we looked at how many active volunteers there were in Virginia. And at that time, it was just over 118,000 active volunteers. That was 15 years ago. Today, we're looking at active volunteers just under 15,000. So we've seen an 85% drop in the last 15 years. With the latest report that was done for us, at the state level, showed a 47% decline in 3 years, and that was from 2020 to 2023, and that was largely because of COVID. I'm active on not only the state level, but the national level, and a lot of problems that we are seeing. We have a lot of dedicated volunteers. You have a lot of dedicated volunteers. But the burden that's on those volunteers to run the business, answer the calls, and do the fundraising to put fuel in the trucks is getting to be too much. And I urge you, do everything you can to preserve your volunteer system and keep it up here as long as you can. But you're going to have to come up with the funds to help. And I often say, I was a career person for 32 years. I'm a volunteer for 52 years. When a volunteer shows up at my home at 3 o'clock in the morning, I know they're there for the right reason. They're not there for a paycheck. Now, we have a lot of great paid people too, but our country was founded on neighbor helping neighbor, and that's one of the last things that we see now is the volunteer fire departments across the country, neighbor helping neighbor.
Right. Well, that was the purpose for my question is, with the requirements of the NFPA 501, how do you have the incentives to initiate or to maintain or to keep those volunteers, especially when, from a legal standpoint, any of those incentives fall back on the local government, and it doesn't sound good as an unpaid employee of that government versus, basically eating the elephant in the room and seeing that you're going to have to go and move forward with paid help.
If you look at the fire side, we are where EMS was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, the EMS side started having trouble, and what has resulted in that, pretty much in Virginia, only 6% of the call volume now is answered by volunteer agencies. The balance is paid by, like what you're doing with North Halifax, what Halifax Rescue Squad is doing with paid folks. And that's a very, very sad statistic. I do this all over the state, from Loudoun County, one of the richest counties in the state, to Lee County in the far southwest. Everybody's looking for that magic bullet, and I don't have it. I can tell you that some places the school systems are getting involved, and that's helping out. And by cross-training your career EMS people, that is helping out. But one of the biggest things that I can tell you is take the burden of fundraising off of them. Because, I know you can't do that overnight. I know you can't write a check today. But as you plan out over the next few years. Because, like I said, buying a new fire truck, you're approaching $1 million. And that's just not achievable selling raffle tickets anymore.
So I want to go back to the radio system for a moment. Are you familiar with STARS, which I sure is that a
I am familiar with it. I know that there are 2 counties that you could probably reach out to. Cumberland County is the closest to you. They're in the process, and they have signed on to the STAR system with the state police. And I'm sure their public safety director or county administrator would be a wealth of information to you on that transition and how that will work.
I'm sure you're aware that in the Richmond area, counties around, they've been trying to get the radio system to work for almost 20 years. It's still not working. And I'm not going to name the company, but the point is, they can't figure it out. And they've been working on it that's in Rico County, City of Richmond, Chesterfield County, the richest, biggest places in Virginia, and they're in an urban area, and they can't figure it out. It's a very complex situation, and in rural terrain, who knows the answer, I guess, is my question.
Well, I have been involved in this, all around, and some counties have been extremely successful with it. And I will use Charlotte County, for instance. We went through this 4 years ago, and I can take a portable radio and be on the Stand River at the Halifax line, and I can talk with a portable radio back into the county. It cost us about $4.5 million, I think, then, but we have a really good system.
And that system is?
With brand,
Yeah.
that's Motorola. And I'm not advocating. It's not.
Sure.
It's to me, it's not the equipment. It's a Ford Chevrolet situation. It's the mechanic that makes the difference. If you don't have the technical expertise in the designer of the system, it's going to fail. And that may be what you're facing here now.
Thank you, Philip.
Anybody have any other questions? You have any questions? No. Okay, thank you for
And in closing, thank y'all for your dedication. Thank y'all for having us in here. And I've already talked to your public safety director. I'm going to be meeting with the fire chiefs and the rescue folks here to go into much more detail with some of the needs and explain to them. The last thing we want to do is intimidate them by some of our recommendations. But working together, I think it can be unstoppable. So,
and I thank you too, and hopefully we'll be back in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next thing we have is committee reports on the airport committee, Supervisor Smart.
Yes, sir. I'll be brief. We met for the first time in a year on September 30th. And so we're in our reconstitution phase right now. We appointed the chairman, vice chairman, and we discussed there's a current grant that the staff is in limbo, and thanks to Mr. Jason, he got it signed, and that grant's no longer in jeopardy, and we're replacing runway lighting and moving on. I would like to comment, Mr. Chairman, if I may. I know in the past there's not a lot known about the airport, but in the last 5 or 6 years we have a new business down there. We have Dick's Aviation. They're currently doing a little over $2 million a year, going aircraft in from as far away as Texas, providing good sound mechanics. And also we've had a lot of luck until recently in fuel sales. With Dick's being down there, fuel sales have increased. We're profiting about $2,000 a month until we recently had trouble with the equipment, and the staff is working hard to get that fixed. And the airport commission in the future will probably make some recommendations about who we buy fuel from, so they'll help us keep our equipment running. But that's all I'm going to have, Mr. Chairman. No recommendations, no need back.
Any questions? Okay. The next thing we're going to have is under new business, the public hearings. I'll send it over to Mr. Easley.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. So tonight, we take action on our first application is for a rezoning request submitted by Ms. Linda Cole to rezone property located at 1190 Walker's Road. As you see on the screen, this is an existing structure, a garage. This is located on Walker's Road. And the proposal is to rezone to convert this garage into a four one-bedroom apartment. And the property is currently zoned A1, agricultural, and it's not permitted to have apartments in A1. So we'd like to rezone, she would like to rezone the property to R2 to allow the reconstruction of this garage to apartment unit. As I mentioned during the public hearing, our comprehensive plan does support the rezoning request, as housing need is a priority here, with expansion of business. So we ask you tonight to have a recommendation on the rezoning request. Ms. Cole is present tonight. If the board would like to ask her any further questions or concerns on the application.
Does anybody want to ask any questions? Were there any objections to the project?
No one spoke in favor or opposition during the public hearing. So, and all letters mailed to adjoining property owners received no concern.
Okay. And you want to rezone from A1 to R2?
That is correct.
What does the board want to do with this?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant their rezoning from A1 to A2.
Do I have a second?
I mean, excuse me, R2, excuse me. A1 to R2.
Okay, do we have any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion is carried. Mr. Easton.
Sure. Second application for Mr. Larry Saunders. Let me get this picture up. Mr. Saunders proposing to use a current construction of this property, which is a lawn for a venue space, which is called Burbage Hill Farms. This application, like I said, just this existing structure is already designed for event space. No one, well, he did have someone speak when the public hearing in favor of the application, so there's no opposition at all. VDOT, upon approval, he does have to meet back with VDOT to get the entrance suitable for VDOT to be a low volume commercial entrance. Mr. Larry, I believe, is present tonight as well. The board would like to ask any questions, but everything is in order for CUP land use for the wedding venue for this location.
Okay, does the board have any further questions? No one? I'd like to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a recommendation, we move forward, approve the conditional use permit in 87 for Mr. Saunders.
Second.
Okay, been moving properly second that we approve the conditional use permit. Any further questions?
All approval would be upon the DOT approval to the low volume entrance.
Correct, and he does have site conditions to go along with it.
Okay, you're willing to amend, are you willing
Yes,
to
sir,
amend
to
your
include the
motion?
site conditions. in
Subject
the-
to site conditions and approval of DOT.
So I don't think there's included, there's 20 site conditions.
That's right.
There's included in that.
So you're willing to amend, is that correct?
Yes.
Your second also?
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion is carried. The third one, proceed.
Sure. Lastly, this is an application submitted by Verizon Wireless to install a 199-foot monopole wireless telecommunication tower located on Conference Store Road. Again, we have a public hearing on the 21st of October. No opposition to the tower. There's a dire need for cell service in the area. No opposition. As I mentioned prior, we did put 2 site conditions in the conditions that we deleted. Upon approval, we would take those 2 site conditions out of the CUP. And I believe Verizon is present tonight. Any questions from Verizon?
What are the 2 conditions that are going to be taken out?
So one condition was to require surety bond for the county in case the tower was abandoned or not in use. And the second condition was for allow the county the opportunity to place to be a carryover tower for our radio communication or emergency. They have agreed that the county would like to entertain in the discussion with them. They allow space for the county, but we will not put that in the condition. That's just a verbal agreement. They will allow the county the opportunity to go on the tower.
It's my understanding we can't put that.
But we got a verbal commitment at the public hearing that they already have enough space for the county. Tom, is that correct?
That's correct.
That's right. Okay, any further questions of Verizon or Mr. Easley? Could I have a motion, please, on this?
Mr. Chairman, that's addition number 3. I would like to follow the planning commission guidance and recommend approval of this application.
Second.
Subject to the
Subject to the conditions stated.
Okay, any further discussion on this? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. The next thing we have is, dealing with the high school athletic complex appropriation of funds. Ms. Morgan?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, tonight before you have just formal action to include the supplemental appropriation to the school board for $10,310,536.05, which was approved as the number that would be associated with the athletic complex at your September board meeting. This is just a formal appropriation of those dollars to the line items so that we can proceed with allowing any payments for those items.
Okay, so that's in addition to the September motion, it's for
Yes.
appropriation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions of Ms. Morgan?
What is the figure again, 2,000,000?
$10,310,536.05.
That was the amount that was approved in September. That's for appropriation now, okay?
Okay.
Does anybody have any further questions of Ms. Morgan? Do I hear a motion to approve the appropriation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, been moved and properly seconded that we approve the appropriation. Any further questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. The next thing we have is the VDHD carry forward fund. Ms. Morgan.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, before you tonight is the annual request for the Virginia Department of Health, VDH, to carry over unused funds. This request is consistent with similar submissions over the prior years. Last year, the Board of Supervisors approved the carry forward of approximately $14,287 to support the administration of hepatitis A vaccinations in response to an increase in community cases, as well as shingles vaccines as needed. This year, the VDH is requesting to apply their year-end settlement, which is estimated between $38,000 and $39,000 for specific uses. The proposed use of those funds are $5,600 to cover the cost of 4 network telecom invoices from the Office of Financial Management, which would now bring them current, $3,600 toward the cost of 1 Vita staff computer, and that will bring, OFM will bring them current. And then the remaining balance, approximately $29,000 to $30,000, to be used for provision of vaccines in the community, including but not limited to shingles, hepatitis A, hepatitis B, rabies, and others as needed. Staff is recommending a supplemental appropriation to reappropriate the year-end funds into fiscal year 26.
And what's the total amount, please?
They are anticipating a year-end settlement estimation of $38,000 to $39,000. They will conclude that once their audit is complete.
Any further questions of Ms. Morgan? Can I entertain a motion on that, please?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay, if it's moved and properly seconded that we allow the carry forward funds to BH. I'm sorry, BD. I had to put my glasses on. I'm sorry. BDHD in the amount of $38,000. What's his total?
Approximately $38,000.
Approximately $38,000. Any further questions on this? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. The next thing we have under L, pending matters, unfinished business. Any staff updates by anyone?
No, sir.
None? Okay, the next thing under subsection L is Urban Grid presentation dealing with the Alton Post Office solar. Okay.
Michelle, before she comes, I'm gonna try to just be clear as I can on this. So there's been some rumors that say in the Alton community concerning Alton Post Office. So there's been some concern that Alton Post Office is in financial trouble. They was not producing any power, solar facility, and they were not paying the lease agreement to the landowner. So that all been circulating. I think some of that got back to some board members. Also, in that realm of things, we got calls from subcontractors of the project that payment was not given to subcontractors. And they wanted the county to take action on using bonds that we have in place to pay subcontractors. So in the realm of all that, I reached out to Urban Grid, which we know Val has been here many times to approach the board, to give some answers to what the rumors are. And so Val presented the county letter, which is in your board package, and I asked her to come tonight to clear the act, to let us know what's the status of our post office, what's the financial structure of the facility, and the facility produces power. So Val, please update the board on the status of our post office, and then I will come back and say what the attorney advised us on how we use the bond, if any, to pay these subcontractors. But Val, we give the floor over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Easley, and hello, everyone. Sorry to be back here under these circumstances, but I appreciate the time. I'm going to mostly read the letter that's in your packet because it sums everything up nicely and also for the benefit of any community members who are here tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to provide clarity regarding misinformation circulating about the Alton Post Office solar facility and the financial status of Urban Grid. We value the county's partnership and want to ensure that accurate information is available to you and the community. First, Urban Grid remains financially strong and continues to invest in communities across our operating portfolio, including here in Halifax County. The APO solar facility is fully operational and has been generating clean, reliable power since December 2024. Further, Urban Grid owns the land for both of the solar projects in Halifax County, and as such, there are no landowner payment obligations outstanding or in dispute. We are aware that Blue Ridge Power, the engineering, procurement, and construction contractor for the project, has recently announced a wind down of its operations, and there are unconfirmed reports of an impending bankruptcy. Urban Grid has paid Blue Ridge Power in full for its contracted work. Unfortunately, we understand that Blue Ridge Power failed to pay certain subcontractors and vendors due to their financial situation. Importantly, the project is protected by a payment bond designed specifically to ensure that subcontractors and vendors are made whole in situations such as this. Despite not being directly liable for the unpaid invoices of Blue Ridge Power subcontractors and vendors, Urban Grid is actively engaging with the surety bond provider and the unpaid subcontractors in an effort to ensure that all of BRP, that's their acronym, all of BRP subcontractors and vendors are paid what they are owed. We understand how rumors or misinformation can create concern in the community and among local leaders, and that is why I'm here with you this evening. We take pride in being a responsible and long-term partner in every community where we operate. We remain committed to the county and its citizens and the success of the Alton Post Office project, and we thank you for your time and your partnership, and I'm happy to answer other questions. I was with our legal team all of last week on a number of issues, and this has been, Urban Grid's been involved in this since Blue Ridge Power first gave indications that there was a problem on their end. They've built 3 projects for us. All 3 are up and running. One is in Frederick County, one is here, and one is in Maryland in Queen Anne's County. And they have, all of them were finished, up and running. The one here was at the very, very tail end of, kind of the punch list of work. And they've left equipment on site and other things that we've been involved in taking care of. I am aware of a couple of the specific contractors that are owed money, and they are in direct touch with our team, as I have shared with you guys, and I think Dave has shared with you some details. And we're trying to work through directly with them. We cannot pay them. It will violate the terms of the surety bond. We can't make those payments directly, but we're doing everything we can to help expedite the payments to those contractors who you may have heard from directly.
So these are subcontractors.
Of Blue Ridge Power. Exactly.
So they're coming directly to you on your surety bond?
That's my understanding.
Not to the county?
That's my understanding. We're working directly with the bond provider. We have insurance for this, so this kind of thing, we have to carry insurance for this, so this kind of thing can be taken care of.
Any questions? DPR, still in operation?
They are not operating on our properties at this time. It's my understanding they've ceased operations, but we haven't seen a formal bankruptcy filing. So they're gone off of the property. Their workers are gone off the properties that we are running. So we've picked up anything that was left undone. Our team is handling or hiring other.
Pay the subcontract.
Correct.
But you have insurance in the next one.
Yes. Yeah, I have been assured by our chief counsel that they are working through it to get paid. He named a couple of the folks here that you may have heard from. One of them is Carter Machinery, who has done work on 2 of our projects, 2 of the 3, the 2 here in Virginia, I believe. And there's a letter on his desk from that company. And so we're very aware of who it is here who's short at the moment and doing everything we can to get those payments expedited.
One final question. In your letter, you said we are aware of the Blue Ridge Power. We are aware of this. So, and also you said that, correct me if I'm wrong, that the company paid Blue Ridge Power. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you put a dollar figure on what you gave?
The cost to build the facility, I don't have the exact amount. It's in the $100 million range, 150 maybe, that the whole project cost to build. Whether or not all of that went to BRP, I don't know, but I can certainly get back to you. They're expensive facilities to build.
Would you please put that?
Yeah, sure.
All right, thanks so much. I'm good.
Anybody have any other questions?
Yeah, I do. So one of my, we're gonna cut to the chase questions was who's gonna pay the unpaid subs? I guess that's you all are making sure that those insurance or the surety bonds that you have will cover that.
That's right.
Okay. Big question, I guess I have one. Interrupt for a minute to Mr. Easer. Were you aware of the selling of Urban Grid to Brookfield?
I don't think it's sold. Brookfield, I guess it's the current company.
Yeah, they just don't. We're a wholly owned subsidiary of Brookfield. They bought it. It was in 2022 when they acquired the company, along with what was Duke Power, and there's 6 or 7 portfolio companies that they own.
So that purchase was 22.
22.
Okay. And I guess one of the other questions is when will you generate power at this facility?
We have been since December of last year. It's been operational since 2024.
So it is running.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Every day.
And the last thing is, we always get back to this, is the blinds. They were not complete.
The what that wasn't complete?
The blinds, the buffers. They were not complete. Nobody has been back. So I know you guys are up and running, but some of the efforts that you put forward to this project are not completed as to what we requested.
And that is on us. And Blue Ridge Power was subcontracting some of that, and we also contracted with a local, I'm forgetting their name now, the local landscaper. Mm-hmm. And some of it was installed, and I asked Mr. Dempsey, the project manager, for an update ahead of this meeting, but he didn't get back to me on time. I knew that was going to come up. But that is on Urban Grid. Anything that they left undone that wasn't, a vendor that was on us, that will get completed. And I'll get back to you on the timeline there. I wasn't aware that it wasn't completed, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I hope they're paying you good, because you always show up and you sit in the hot seat. And it's certainly hot tonight, but I do appreciate you showing up. And I would appreciate the follow-up.
Of course.
Of seeing this project completed.
Of course.
So now, just to piggyback, so there was 2 spots that the board requested additional buffering, and that was called from Ms. Yancey at the main entrance, and also down the road in the name. We have more buffering behind.
The pennies. I know we did install trees there. Some of them didn't make it because of the drought, etc. The Yancey.
He's the guy with the garage.
Yeah, I forget the address. 22. 17 maybe.
I'll have to look back at my notes, but I will get back to you on anything that was undone in terms of the buffer that was promised. That is still on the list.
Anything else? I thank you, and I just ask you to keep us apprised.
Of course, sure thing. And you can also contact me directly. I know that Mr. Easley will too. So keeps us honest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Next thing on the agenda is supervisor's comments. Do any supervisors have any comments? Anyone? Okay. Next, I need a motion into closed session.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we enter into closed session pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711 to include subsections A1 covers appointments and personnel. A1. Well, I don't have that one. And A3. Yeah, and A3 to include IDA real estate.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you watch this. For me, at the moment, it's good morning, the day after the November 3rd Halifax County, Virginia Board of Supervisors meeting. I just want to have a few afterward commentaries. I didn't know if I should split it up and do a split screen. I thought, no, I'll just do a end note commentary about it. It was fairly well attended, not as good as some of the ones I've seen, but there was quite a few people there. And the main things, as you can see from the video you just watched, if you made it all the way through, I know a lot of the details are boring, if you're not personally vested. But they started out, the meat of it, of course, was this recommendation from the gentleman about E911 services, emergency services, and all that. And it clearly showed that there's a lot of lacking or challenges or opportunities, let me use the right words, for Halifax County to improve their system. A lot of it was very logical. Obviously you want well-trained staff, but what was shocking to me was the decrease in volunteerism, or the number of volunteers and I also didn't know we had that many fire departments. That's a really interesting thing I noted for future reference. I think it was like an 85% decrease nationally, he said. I'd have to go back and watch. But that's a huge thing that needs to be addressed. And one of his main points and priorities that he was pointing out in his presentation was that they need funding, because fundraisers, selling Brunswick stew or barbecue, or all these things that these volunteer fire departments do to keep going, it's just not sustainable anymore. A new fire truck might cost $1 million. They can't do that selling raffle tickets. So getting help from the county is really urgent for support of these emergency services. He brought up some things about OSHA and some other training. I'm very familiar with OSHA. I'm OSHA certified myself, but he brought up some other trainings I hadn't heard of that are very specific to what they do. Now, I want to tell you a quick story. When I was teaching here in Halifax County at the high school, we had a kid that was part of the volunteer fire service. I don't really want to name where or identify him, but he absolutely loved it. It's all he talked about. And I remember one time he got in trouble. I think he didn't come to class because he said he was doing a fire. Whether that was true or not, I don't know. But the point is, he was very invested in doing this volunteer fire work. So I'm curious to know, have they gone to high schools and tried to recruit them? What is the age limit? Do you have to be 18? Because that would cut out probably most of the kids in school. But if it's 16, I'm sure you can get a lot and get them excited about it, because it's some great skills to learn. It's giving back to your community. And potentially it's saving lives. And the more people we have trained in that type of assistance, I mean, just what a better place it would be. I required all of the students I taught to have first aid and CPR because I just believe in it so much that it can save lives and helps people know what to do in a crisis situation, instead of just freaking out and not knowing, because they just don't know. You can't fault people for that if they haven't been trained. One thing I learned in school was that to have a satisfied employee, you've got to fulfill two needs. One of them is competency, the other one is belonging. But what they mean by competency is that you need to walk into something knowing what you're doing. You need to be trained. I mean, have you ever been into a job and no one gave you good instructions? And how did that make you feel? I feel like a doofus, So yeah, maybe recruiting some younger people would be part of a local solution. I don't know. I'm too old to volunteer, but I do like volunteering for things, or just getting any kind of message out there and volunteer for anything. Get people out of their homes and away from their phones more often. So anyway, that was a really good presentation, a lot of good information that I hope is not just, put on a shelf for years later, if it's even considered. Then what did we have after that? We had citizen comments, and there's a local guy. His name's something Bailey. I've talked to him a few times, but I don't particularly feel interested or compelled to interview him or pursue it further. I think a lot of what he goes to these board meetings to do is attention-seeking behavior. Last night, I think he was bordering on defamation. I mean, he attacks a lot of local people without any type of substance or evidence because he doesn't like them. I don't know. He got up there and said some defaming things about exposing local law enforcement, Commonwealth Attorney's Office players, without a shred of anything. Now, if he'd walked in there with files, paperwork, screenshots, photos, convictions, indictments, anything other than a Bible and saying they were Satan, he might have a little credibility with me, but at this point he doesn't. I am a staunch supporter of the First Amendment and freedom of speech, and this is what the citizen comment section is all about. But his verbiage, I feel, is a bit of a waste of time for this platform. I don't know. What do you think? His goal is to harm, humiliate, embarrass with zero evidentiary backup. And that I disagree with. It's like the whole argument of freedom of speech. Can you yell fire in a crowded firehouse? That caused public harm. What he says doesn't necessarily cause harm. I don't know. We're on the eve of today's election day, and he was verbally bashing one of the candidates while praising another one. And someone stopped to say something about it was campaigning, and the board members, of course, said, it's not campaigning, he's just voices his opinion. Well, where's the line? I mean, I could have easily gotten up there and done the same thing, but on the reverse shoe. But I'm not going to do it. It's not the time, the place. It's lack of tact. It's lack of decorum. And quite frankly, a lot of it's crazy talk. I'm sure your average person listening, I mean, I looked at the audience and watched, and a lot of them were just smiling or laughing because they know this guy. Apparently, I've been told tales of him ripping up pages and throwing them at the board, whatever. I don't know the full history, and I don't want to engage in conjecture, rumor, or gossip. But all of my contact with him has not been comfortable whatsoever. So that's enough attention to him. Moving on, there was another lady. Oh gosh, I forgot what she was talking about. But after that, there were three getting approvals for zoning. One, they wanted to turn an old garage into like a 4-apartment setting. The next one was, I think it was a vineyard, or it was something that was already functioning as a venue, but they wanted to get the whole place licensed as a venue. And the third one was something to do with the tower and Verizon, trying to get permission to utilize a space. Or it was all to do with zoning because Mr. Easley was there, who's in charge of zoning, Dietrich Easley. Now I know what the lady before that spoke about. She was saying, please approve all of these because we're in dire needs of business and engagement in this county and not to have so many regulations and zoning restrictions, blah, blah, blah. So that's what it was all about. Of course, everything was approved, and there were hearings for those prior to that, but I didn't know about that, and I'm not quite sure how to access that. I think I need to watch the Board of Supervisors webpage more often. But give me a break, guys. I don't have a lot of time to do all this. I need help. I need volunteer podcasters. Then after that, what was that? We had the presentation, then we had the zoning. That was kind of the bulk of the priorities of that meeting. Then they went into closed session. I don't know why. They always say it's to do with staffing. And I did not have time to wait and see if they came out and made any kind of announcement. We can check the paper, or I can ask someone else. It's too early in the day to do that as of yet. But I just wanted to add an end note to this Board of Supervisors meeting. I looked on their website, and they did live stream it. I had great difficulty hearing it. I do hope you can hear mine a little better. I'm still shaky on my camera work. I'm trying hard. I'm trying not to swing it too quickly because, quite frankly, that gives me motion sickness when I watch a video like that. But I do hope you can hear it better. And I do like that the camera is on the person speaking, especially when it comes from the citizens' comments, regardless of what they're saying. So, get out there and vote, Halifax County. I hope to see a great turnout. I'll be there. I'm going to try to live stream from there. I hope to get some interviews. I tried to get some interviews after this. Why is it every time anyway, I get the hiccups. I don't get it. I'm allergic to recording. Not really. Anyway, I tried to get some interviews after the Board of Supervisors meeting, but nobody was really game. So just keep trying. I've got an interview today. We've got the election tonight. I'm really looking forward to that, mainly because afterwards it's going to give me a break on some stuff. And a lot of good things coming up for the rest of the week. So keep tuned. Be sure and subscribe, please, and ask your friends to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I found out if I could get up to 500 subscribers, that's when they'll start putting ads in, and we can have a little monetary compensation to help me with equipment and stuff. So there you go. There you have it. Facebook is growing again since the rebranding. I've got some more commercials to put out. Thank you for your support. I'm so excited about the election. I can't wait to do this tonight. Ciao.